Hi friends, my name is Nandita. I am from Andhra Pradesh.
Children, now let us discuss about means of transport. Children, now let us study what is diffusion first. Movement by diffusion is a passive and may be from one part of the cell to the other, or from cell to cell, or over short distance, say from the intercellular spaces of the leaf to the outside. No energy expenditure takes place. In diffusion, molecules move in a random fashion. The net result beginning substance moving from regions of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. Diffusion is a slow process and it is not dependent on a living system. Diffusion is obviously in a gases and liquids, but diffusion in solids is more likely rather than of solids. Diffusion is a very important to plants since it is the only means of gaseous movement within the plant body. Diffusion rates are affected by the gradient of concentration, the permeability of the membrane separating them, temperature and pressure. Let us study the facilitated diffusion. As I point out earlier, a gradient must already be present for diffusion to occur. The diffusion rate depends on the size of the substance. Obviously, smaller substance diffuse faster. The diffusion of any substance across a membrane also depends on its solubility in lipids, the major constituent of the membrane. Substance soluble in lipids diffuse through the membrane faster. Substances that have a hydrophilic moiety find it difficult to pass through the membrane. Their movement has to be facilitated. Membrane proteins provide sites at which such molecules cross the membrane. They do not set up a concentration gradient. A concentration gradient must already be present for molecules to diffuse, even if facilitated by the proteins. This process is called facilitated diffusion. In facilitated diffusion, special proteins help move substance across the membrane without expenditure of ATP energy. Facilitated diffusion cannot cause net transport of molecules from a low to a high concentration. This would require input of energy. Transport rate reaches maximum when all of the protein transporters are being used. Facilitated diffusion is very specific. It allows cell to select substance for uptake. It is sensitive to inhibitors which react with protein inside chains. The protein from channels in the membrane for molecules to pass through it. Some channels are always open, others can be controlled, some are large, allowing a variety of molecules to cross it. The porins are proteins that form large pores in the outer membrane of the plastids, mitochondria, and some bacteria, allowing molecules up to the size of small proteins to pass through it. An extracellular molecules bound to the transport protein. The transport protein then rotates and releases the molecule inside the cell. Example, water channels made up of 8 different types of aquaporins. Children, let us discuss about passive symports and antiports. Some carrier or transport proteins allow diffusion only if two types of molecules move together. In a symport, both molecules cross the membrane in the same direction. In an antiport, they move in opposite direction. When a molecule moves across the membrane independent of other molecules, and this process is called uniport. Now let us discuss about active transport. Active transport uses energy to transport and pump molecules against a concentration gradient. Active transport is carried out by specific membrane proteins. Hence, different proteins in the membrane play a major role in both active as well as passive transport. Pumps are proteins that use energy to carry substance across the cell membrane. These pumps can transport substance from a low concentration to a high concentration upfill transport. Transport rate reaches a maximum when all the protein transporters are being used and are saturated. Like enzymes that carry carrier protein is a very specific in what it carries across the membrane. These proteins are sensitive to inhibitors that react with proteins side chains. Let us see what is the comparison of different transport process. A comparison of the different transport mechanisms means protein in the membrane are responsible for facilitated diffusion and active transport and how show common characteristics of being highly selective. There are liable to saturate, respond to inhibitors and are under hormonal regulation. But diffusion, whether facilitate or not, takes place only along a gradient and do not use energy. Thank you.